Eve's Bayou is Black Southern Gothic excellence. Follows up with a young Black girl named Eve, and she's growing up in the 1960s in a very wealthy family in Louisiana, and they're specifically Creole. Then we see it leads right into the party at the family's wealthy home right in the Bayou. Roz is the wife. She's right here. Mazel, she is the sister. She's the auntie. She's super important. And then Lewis is the husband. And then this is another woman that he is dancing with. Now, as we can see, the children are running around. They're playing. Everyone's having a good time. They're drinking their champagne. These two was doing a little bit too much. And everybody was starting to peep game, including her husband. After this, he ends up dancing with his daughter, Cicely, which is the oldest one, which is played by Megan Good. And they start dancing. And Eve gets really upset. She gets really mad because she's like, dang, like everybody dancing with my dad. But she gets really mad. She gets upset and she ends up running away, and she ends up running outside to like this little barn they have in the back, and she ends up falling asleep there. So she literally woke up to them doing the do in the barn for air because, mind you, their dad is a respected doctor. Like she's never seen her dad do any wrong. This is her first time ever seeing him act this type of way. The scene cuts to her talking to her dad. Doesn't really say too much about what happened. He's basically just talking to her. He's trying to basically console her because she's still crying. And then the mom comes out. It's bedtime. Did you have fun at the party? And she asks the dad, do you want to come back inside? And he's like, just give me a moment. He was really upset. So she goes upstairs and she's getting undressed and she's talking to her bigger sister and she's crying. And she's basically explaining to her what happened. As she's telling her this story, Cicely, her sister, is getting really upset. She's like, there's no way Artie could do this, not with her. Cicely begins to tell a story to Eve and create a new scenario as to what she saw. And in there to basically look for wine, and he was just in there with the woman and they was looking for it together, and that never happened. And the scene cuts to Auntie Moselle and her husband as they're leaving, and him and Lewis are beginning to fight. Uncle Harry has had too much to drink. So they're really like, no, you shouldn't be driving. Like, he ends up letting Auntie Moselle drive the car home. Eve is dreaming. She's having like certain visions. The same coin that Uncle Harry had gave to her, it's spinning in the dream. She's seeing cars. She's seeing red. Like, she's seeing certain visions that something bad has happened. And then the scene cuts and we see her at Uncle Harry's grave, and also like the family grave, the plot, and she's passing out the flowers. This is her third husband. So this is pretty tragic for her. Like, she's a widow 3 times now. And it's almost like the curse that she has. Eve ends up going to see Auntie Moselle, and she wants to check up on her, you know, because she just lost her husband and she's grieving. And as she is over there, Moselle is looking in the mirror and she can see her 3 husbands. And Eve is like, Auntie, you don't look good. Like, what, you know, are you okay? So as Eve is there, she's noticing how Auntie Moselle is practicing voodoo. And she has a friend that comes in whose son is missing, and she wants to know if he's been unalived or not. Does a reading, and in the reading, in her visions, she sees that the son is alive and he's on drugs. She also does another reading for another friend there whose niece stole all her money, and she basically gave her a mojo bag. She told her what to do with it. She told her how to protect herself. So also in these moments, we can see that Eve is cleaning the altar, and in the hoodoo community, that is very big for someone to have an altar, to respect their altar, to keep it clean, to do certain things. So as Eve and Moselle are walking back home, she's talking with her sister, and her sister is really, really upset. So Cicely tries to warn the dad and was like, hey, maybe you should leave. Like, they're really upset. You should go somewhere. Eve and the dad, Lewis, end up going to the doctor's appointments that he had. Now, as Lewis, the dad, and Eve are going to doctor's appointments, Eve is starting to peep up on certain stuff because he's visiting certain female clients that he's acting peculiarly weird with. And he ends up telling Eve to even go outside so he could do with one of the patients. And the patient was Miss Stevie. Sisters are on the bayou talking about like everything that's going on, and you know, Moselle's grief and everything that Roz is feeling right now. As they're walking, they walk upon like a pier, and it has a fortune teller, and Roz really wants her fortune told. This is the fortune teller that they end up seeing. Now, Roz is like, I want to get my fortune read. Mizelle is more in the back, like, nah, I don't really want to mess with her. So she goes and she sits down, and the fortune teller basically tells her something is going to happen, but it's not what she wants, and that it's basically in 3 years she'll be happy. Specifically tells her to look for your children. Look to your children. Look to your children. Look to your children. So this is something that she's constantly saying to her. Roz puts the dollar in there. She walks away. She doesn't really know what to think of it. She's kind of upset. Now, Mizelle ends up sitting down because she's like, okay, I want my fortune read. And the lady was like, I don't even need to play with nothing to tell you. Like, you're cursed. Like, any husband that you get is going to die. And, girl, you already know you cursed. So Mizelle ends up picking up the glass that has the money in it. She ends up breaking it and causes a scene and running away. And she was really upset. As she's running away, she gets a vision of one of the kids getting hit by the train. But she doesn't know which kid has the train. She ends up passing out in the middle of the street. When they get home, they end up telling the kids, like, none of y'all can leave. Becoming very paranoid. And Louis is kind of like, man, don't be telling my kids they can't leave. And then the mama Roz was like, you got me messed up. These my kids. Like, they're not leaving this house. I don't care. Like, they're not leaving. That's when we start to see Eve get really disrespectful and get really smart with her mouth. She becomes really, really upset, bored. The boredom causes her to, like, play pranks on her brother. And, like, she's just getting really agitated, irritated. She's starting to curse. Like, she just crashing. And as Eve is crashing out, that she's seeing her dad sleeping with Miss Moreau in the barn, her auntie is like, girl, don't say that to nobody. Don't repeat it to nobody. Like, don't say anything. Like, oh my God. Like, she's just shook. Now, mind you, Mizelle and her dad, that's brother and sister. So she kind of like, me and my brother are the same, but like, she's really shook by like what she's finding out from Eve. Auntie Moselle is trying to calm Eve down, and she ends up telling her a story about her husband who passed away, Maynard. And she kind of explains what happened and how he actually died.